Hollywood had survived thousands of scandals before, but nothing prepared the world for this month. The month when six of the most controversial figures lit the industry on fire. It began with whispers, then viral clips, then courtroom explosions that couldn't be contained. Social media kept counting the days, calling it the Great Unmasking, because every 48 hours a new celebrity disaster hit the front page. Rebel Wilson stood at the center of the storm first. What began as a memoir teaser spiraled into a war against half of Hollywood. Producers called her a liar. Former co-stars accused her of exaggeration. But Rebel didn't back down. She fired back on live TV, her voice steady. If they want to fight, they'll get one. That clip hit 80 million views in 2 days. At the same time, the Miss Universe organization collapsed under the weight of fraud allegations. And Untouchable, once celebrated as a visionary, was suddenly chased by reporters shouting questions about missing millions. Contestants cried on camera. Sponsors threatened to walk away. And fans, furious fans, demanded answers. This was just the beginning. Hollywood wasn't ready for what came next. When police cars appeared outside the mansion of a primetime reality star, the internet froze. He had millions of followers, a family-friendly brand, and a spotless public image, until officers let him out in handcuffs. Charges of assault, leaked audio, statements from women who said they were ignored for years. Producers panicked. Networks tore down posters overnight. TikTok exploded with conspiracy theories, timelines, and grainy footage of the arrest replayed from every angle. And then came the most damaging part. A former castmate revealed that complaints had been filed long before the scandal broke. But executives, hungry for ratings, allegedly buried them. The industry's darkest secret was finally out. Fame didn't protect victims. It protected monsters. This arrest cracked the door open. What came through next was a hurricane. No one expected a meltdown inside the BBC. The giant, the standard, the media empire that bragged about integrity. But a leaked memo proved otherwise. In the memo, top executives were accused of manipulating coverage, mishandling internal investigations, and suppressing stories that could hurt political allies. Journalists revolted. Staff walked out. The newsroom felt like a battlefield where trust had died, and everyone blamed everyone else. Then the lawsuit arrived, thick, brutal, full of accusations that made the BBC look less like a news organization and more like a dysfunctional corporation with elite puppeteers pulling strings. Hollywood watched in delight. If even the BBC could burn, then anyone could be next. Rebel Wilson didn't just survive the scandal. She weaponized it. She released voice notes, emails, screenshots, contracts, and a list of names she claimed had sabotaged her career for years. Hollywood froze. Suddenly, producers who once mocked her now hired crisis management experts. A-list actors refused to comment. Lawyers threatened to sue, then changed their minds when more evidence leaked. Rebel's book hit #1 before it was even released. But with every revelation, more enemies surfaced. One director claimed she exaggerated. Rebel responded by publishing a 17-minute private call between them. One co-star denied her story. Rebel dropped an email that contradicted him word for word. The industry didn't know what was worse, that she might be lying or that she might be telling the truth. While Hollywood chewed on Rebel's war, the Miss Universe scandal turned into a global circus. The arrest warrant against Untouchable became the top trending topic for 3 days. Former contestants cried on live streams. Insiders leaked financial documents. Brands quietly backed out of partnerships. Fans accused the organization of years of manipulation, rig scores, favoritism, backroom deals, hush money arrangements. Whether true or not, the damage was done. A beauty empire built over 70 years was collapsing in real time, reshaping the future of pageants forever. By the end of the month, the 6 scandalous figures, Rebel Wilson and Untouchable, the arrested reality star, the BBC executives, and 2 unnamed Hollywood producers exposed in leaks, became symbols of the industry's new era. It wasn't about fame anymore. It wasn't about talent. It wasn't even about money. It was about power. Who used it, who abused it, who exposed it, and who paid the price. Hollywood didn't collapse, but it shook so hard that nothing would ever be the same. Fans called them the Untamed Six, the chaotic forces that forced the world to look at the entertainment industry without filters, PR teams, or fake smiles. Their scandals were messy. Their stories were painful. But their impact was undeniable. Because for the first time in years, the truth didn't whisper. It screamed. Just when Hollywood thought the scandal wave was finally slowing down, a mysterious anonymous account on X dropped what the internet immediately named the receipts that broke the city. Screenshots, voice recordings, leaked contracts, photos of private meetings in dark restaurants with huge red circles drawn around faces people recognized instantly. Actors, showrunners, politicians, agents. The account posted only one sentence. You wanted the truth. Here it is. Within an hour, the post hit 5 million views. 2 of the Untamed Six were directly implicated. One producer accused of silencing victims, and another allegedly involved in illegal payments hidden under consulting fees. A-listers panicked. Their lawyers panicked harder. Even CEOs of major studios locked their doors and refused interviews. But the public was hungry. They zoomed in on every blurry image. They matched voices and leaked calls to real people. They built timelines, charts, conspiracy maps. This wasn't just drama now. This felt like a full-blown Hollywood revolution. And then came the twist. Rebel Wilson reposted the thread with a single fire emoji. The internet exploded. Was she confirming everything? Was she involved in the leaks? Was she warning Hollywood that she had more? For the first time in history, the industry didn't feel untouchable. It felt hunted. It happened on a Thursday night. Every major Hollywood PR office received the same anonymous email. Subject line: your past has arrived. It contained dozens of files. Some real, some exaggerated, some questionable, but all explosive enough to send the industry into what journalists later called the 7-hour silence. No celebrity posted anything. No studio made a statement. No influencer uploaded a selfie. Hollywood, the loudest place on earth, went dead quiet. Behind the scenes, the Untamed Six faced their own crossroads. The reality star sat in a holding cell as lawyers negotiated deals that could cost networks millions. And Tip's team scrambled to prove the documents in the leaks were manipulated. The BBC executives panicked over new allegations hidden in the files, allegations that hinted at deeper corruption. And Rebel? She stayed silent longer than anyone expected. Her team said she was reviewing everything. Fans believed she was preparing her most explosive move yet. But the real shock came at 3:12 a.m. The anonymous account posted again. This isn't about destroying careers. It's about revealing the truth the world paid to ignore. The comment sections filled with fear, anger, excitement, theories. Some said it was a hacker. Some said it was an insider. Some said it was one of the Untamed Six themselves. But one thing was clear. Hollywood had entered a new era, one where secrets were temporary, scandals had no expiration date, and silence was the most suspicious sound of all. For weeks, people online argued about who was behind the leaks. A hacker? A journalist? A bitter ex-assistant with a grudge? But no one expected the truth. The whistleblower was someone from inside the system, a mid-level executive from one of the biggest media companies, someone who had spent a decade watching the industry devour people and bury consequences. Her name was withheld from the public, but insiders called her the archivist. She had access to everything: internal emails, unedited reports, abandoned cases, legal memos that never saw daylight. For years, she collected everything, storing it in a private folder named "In Case I Disappear." One night, after learning that 2 victims were pressured into silence again, she snapped. She told investigators, "I wasn't trying to ruin Hollywood. I was trying to remind it that no one is above the truth." The documents she leaked connected threads nobody had dared to touch. Producers protecting each other through hidden agreements. Agents negotiating hush-money deals disguised as bonuses. Studios burying misconduct reports to save blockbuster deadlines. And journalists pressured to soften stories to keep access. The Untamed Six weren't just involved. They were the tip of a massive iceberg. The most shocking file detailed secret meetings where networks discussed how to handle the scandals before they broke, choosing who to sacrifice and who to protect. When law enforcement confirmed the authenticity of half the documents, Hollywood felt the walls closing in. The archivist had set something in motion that couldn't be undone, and she was no longer hiding. She was ready to testify. The second week of the trial became the darkest Hollywood had seen in decades. Careers that once looked untouchable were suddenly collapsing like fragile glass structures. It didn't matter how big the studio was. It didn't matter how many awards were on the shelf. It didn't matter how many millions someone had earned. The truth didn't care. It came for everyone. The first to fall was the agent, the same one who had negotiated deals for half of Hollywood's blockbuster stars. Emails showed he had been involved in silencing multiple complaints and manipulating press narratives. Within hours, his agency terminated him. By evening, his name was erased from every client page. Then came the BBC shockwave. New internal documents leaked during testimony revealed years of mishandled investigations, cases closed without follow-up, and an entire department allegedly pressured to protect the institution's reputation above all. Networks across Europe began distancing themselves. Streaming platforms quietly removed several BBC-affiliated titles. For the first time in its history, the BBC wasn't the watchdog, it was the headline. But the biggest explosion hit when Rebel Wilson walked into the courthouse. Flashes went off like lightning. Reporters screamed her name. She wasn't a defendant. She wasn't a suspect. She was there as a witness. And she came prepared. Her testimony was raw, controlled, and devastating. She read messages she had saved for years, texts from producers calling her difficult, emails mocking her weight, contracts that were changed without her consent. She showed how an entire machine tried to shrink her, silence her, mold her into what they wanted. The courtroom sat frozen. Even the judge leaned back, stunned. By the end of her testimony, 3 more executives were placed under investigation. One cried on camera. Another disappeared from public view. And one of the Untamed Six, the producer accused of burying misconduct reports, resigned on live TV. The fallout wasn't just professional. Families broke apart. Brands pulled endorsements. Studios halted projects. Board members resigned. Hollywood didn't feel like Hollywood anymore. It felt like a battlefield where the old world was dying. And everyone was watching. The trial ended, but the shock wave kept spreading. For months, it felt like the industry was holding its breath, waiting to see which pieces would survive and which would be swept away forever. And then, slowly, something unexpected happened. A new Hollywood began to form. Not the polished, protected, golden empire built on secrets, but a fractured, honest, uncomfortable, rebuilding Hollywood. Studios introduced transparent reporting systems. Networks hired independent investigators. Contracts added clauses protecting staff from retaliation. Major companies opened their doors to audits. For the first time, people felt like the truth wasn't a threat. It was a foundation. The archivist, once the anonymous whistleblower, became a symbol of courage. Although she never revealed her face to the public, producers and journalists called her the woman who changed the system. A new law was drafted in her honor, protecting employees who reported misconduct in the entertainment industry. Rebel Wilson's book became a global bestseller. But more importantly, she became a mentor for younger actors fighting the same battles she once fought alone. She wasn't just a comedian anymore. She was a force. And Untouchable, after months of chaos, launched a new version of the Miss Universe organization. Smaller, more transparent, with oversight committees watching every move. It wasn't perfect, but it was reborn. The reality stars era ended. The BBC rebuilt itself from the inside. The corrupt executives faded into silence. But the Untamed Six, the figures who defined the storm, became legends of a different kind. Not heroes, not villains, but catalysts. The ones who forced Hollywood to look at its own reflection and stop pretending it was flawless. And as the sun rose over Los Angeles months later, the city looked the same, but felt entirely different. New voices rose. New creators emerged. New rules shaped the game. Hollywood didn't die. It shed its skin. And in the ashes of its scandals, something rare was born. A version of the industry where people finally believed change wasn't just possible. It had already begun.